Hi everyone. Today I want to talk a little bit more about some different processes in creating your project for the advertisement motion graphic animation. I have this piece that I put together very quickly, but it shows a variety of different techniques that some of them we've looked at in the past. I just want to cover it again. Others are new. I'm not going to go through the entire process from start to finish because that would take way too long. But we're just going to kind of analyze, look through the different layers on some of the different techniques and how they're organized to create the animation that you see here. So I'm going to go ahead and play it so you can hear and see.
Sweat Treats hot sauce blends rare chilies and refined spices into subtle heat and layered complexity. Sweat Treats hot sauce blends rare chilies and refined spices into subtle heat and layered complexity.
All right, so I have that on the loop. It's just about 6.5 seconds long, so something really short. But in that time, you can see that I have several different compositions here. What I title the main composition at the front. This is where you see most of the layers. Now, again, the audio, we have the music here. If you toggle down the audio layers, you can eventually see the waveform. So in this case, this one is the music, and this one is the voiceover. The music came from the YouTube audio library, and the voiceover came from 11 Labs, the text-to-speech website that made this voiceover from a text script that I inputted. So these are the audio layers here. I just have them at the bottom. And just in case you're wondering how to get those in there, if you go, you see your project elements here. If you don't see this, look for project. Just clicking on the little double arrows here for project. And then if you have your MP3 file, I like to just drag and drop it over here, and then you can just click and drag and drop this down, and it creates that layer there. So I'm going to undo that so we don't need another audio layer. All right, so again, music and voiceover. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn those off so we're not going to hear any audio anymore. One, so it's not interrupting what I'm saying, and also we don't need it while we're looking at the graphics. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the audio right now. Okay, so some of these other layers, we see, let's start here, 3 shape layers. Those are these chili peppers. And in case you didn't really hear the script well, this is a fictional ad for hot sauce. And those of you that know me, I'm big into hot sauce, so that's why I'm doing this. Okay, so we have 3 shape layers that are moving, these kind of chili pepper shapes, kind of geometric, that are popping up, and they're also kind of pulsing a little bit, different colors, and you see these dashed lines moving around as well. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Now, first off, you're probably wishing I had mentioned this for project 1, but there's a reason why I didn't, because I didn't want people taking the easy way out if possible. Some of you may have found it on your own. There are actually animation presets in After Effects. So the process that I've talked about before, where you're keyframing, you're animating, let's say, a position change from one point in time to the next. You're doing that manually. That is an essential part of After Effects. That is basically what the animation comes down to. You know, clicking on these stopwatches, having your keyframes, your starting and ending point. There are some presets here. So I have this tab, Effects and Presets. If any of these things that I'm showing, if you don't see them, go up to Window and look for them here. In this case, I see Effects and Presets, but I do see it. That's why it's checked. So for Effects and Presets, you have all kinds of presets or effects here. and they're all in these drop-down menus. If you're looking at other tutorials online, you probably have seen people talk about effects already. I'm going to show at the very top, there's a section called animation presets. So if I toggle that down, and then there's all these submenus. In this case, let's look at transition. So in this case, a dissolve. Anytime you click on one of these, drag it onto, let's say, a shape layer, it will automatically apply some sort of animation, so you don't have to do it manually. Now, it's a preset, so you're working with what has already been made. You do have the ability to edit them some, but if you're looking to do something that is completely unique, that's where you still have to do it manually. Let me go ahead, just to illustrate this, I'm going to make a new composition. I'm going to put a quick shape in here. So I just have shape layer 1. Again, if I go to effects and presets, and then I'm already in animation presets, let's do a transition movement. Let's do the zoom bubble. So I'm going to click and drag that onto this layer here, and you'll notice it automatically added these 2 keyframes. And if I toggle down the menu options under the shape layer 1, and you see under effects, it has automatically applied some other effects like this zoom bubble, the sphereize effect, transform. So it's done a lot. But if we just play it, this is what it looks like. So you see that. So just by me going to the animation presets, clicking and dragging one of the presets onto the shape layer, it has animated this circle. Let me turn that off and let me just try another one just so you can see something different. Let's do pop and wobble in. Now press play. So it's a little more subtle, but you can see, let me actually zoom in a bit so you can see it easier. And I'm gonna take up my resolution size. Let's try this again. So that's the pop, it pops in, and then it just wobbles a little bit, just to give it a little bit more motion and make it feel more alive. All right, so it's adding these animation presets is super easy. You just click and drag them onto your layer, and then it automatically adds all of these presets, these keyframes. In this case, it's just animating basically just scale and rotation. So this is editable. If I drag out these keyframes, it will change how they act in time. So now I've dragged them out. That means that animation is going to happen much slower because it's animating these properties over a longer period of time. So you can see the wobble part especially a lot slower. All right, so let's go back to our main composition. Look more at these first 3 chili pepper graphics. For this one, I haven't taken time to rename them, so right now it's still just shape layer 6. But it looks like it's this one here. If I've selected on it, let me just toggle this down. And you can see there is other effects applied on it. Now what I've done here is actually apply a random color effect. So you can see as they pop up, see how they're changing colors. So like if you look at the one on the right, it goes from green to, actually it's mainly staying different types of greens. Look at the one on the left, going from pink to purple to red, back to purple again. So that's adding a little bit more motion. That's over here, and again, effects, if you type in random color, so it's another preset. It's under the behaviors. So you click and drag random colors onto a shape, and it will change the color. You can see these effect options over here on the left. This is where you can kind of adjust what colors are animated, and how bright they are, how fast they change, things like that. And the last thing I'll show on these is I do have, I gotta find it first, under shape 1, and then, shape layer 6, and then under contents, shape 1, and then the stroke 1. This is where I've added dashes, and these options here, if you look, you can see as I'm changing them, it's increasing or decreasing the size of the dashed lines and also the gap in between the line segments. So that's how to have a dashed line. And then this option here that says offset, you can see the little stopwatch is turned on. This offset is where you can change and animate the motion of the dashed line going around the shape of the chili pepper. So you can see I have it turned on and animated with the first keyframe here and last one here. And I basically have copied all of those effects, all of those edits to that layer. Those are all applied just in different ways on these 3 shape layers. Because if it was just one here, it might look a little boring if I just turn some of these off. We just have one chili pepper on the screen. So a little trick is that if something feels a little empty in your composition, just duplicate the layers. So now when you have 3 that are kind of offset, they're kind of popping up after a few frames individually. It just adds a little bit more visual interest right at the start of the animation. And the last thing is that I then manually animated the position change. And you can see here for these 3 layers, you can see position, the blue stopwatch is turned on, so that after they pop up and they're changing colors and they're kind of pulsing a little bit, then they fly off the screen. And that allows the transition for these other layers to pop in. Now before we get to the text, you can see this magenta, green, yellow chili peppers that are kind of flying and spinning around. Those are through these next shape layers here. A lot of the same things are happening, but in this case, one big difference is that I have added, under contents, I've added an animator. So again, if you look at by contents, you see add and the triangle button here, where you can add these animators. I added a repeater. So with the repeater, added to shape layer 1, and then animated the offset, also adjusted the transformation settings. And if I adjust these, you can see how it's moving them around like this. Let me also change the rotation. That was a big one. So you see, as I am adjusting this rotation setting, is adjusting how that chili pepper piece looks like it's being repeated around in some sort of spiral. And then I just animated the offset again. So that's done with the repeater animator. And again, they're each their own colors, and each on their own shape layer here. All right, then we have the text. This one was pretty simple. Let's see, I have rare chilies. Yes, this was converted a text layer to shapes, and just added a kind of, I think, a pop, one of those pop and wobble animation presets in here. So that's where you see as the peppers start to spiral, it just kind of twists and pops in. It might have been one of the, I think there's a preset called twist something. I forget exactly what I used. All of it was done very quickly. And so that disappears. It transitions to the next phase, which these are being aligned with the voiceover. So the voiceover is talking about rare chilies, and now refine spices. So the refine spices also preset. I would recommend, let me go back to this blank composition. I'm going to make a new shape again. Again, if things are feeling a little stale, a little lifeless in your composition, go to effects and presets, type in hand, and you can see the hand drawn effect. If you click and drag that over to the layer, it automatically gives it that kind of wobbly edge. So I didn't have to do anything else. Before, it was just this solid circle, and now with the hand drawn effect on here, instead of it being just a solid blank lifeless circle, now it has some rough edges, it has some movement, some wobbliness, kind of gives that kind of old school hand drawn kind of rotoscoping effect. So that's all I've done really to the refined spices text here. So it dissolves in, kind of see it going from left to right, and it's just moving around a bit. And then around it we have these kind of almost like sun rays pulsing. And I will show, so that's under a composition. I did this separately, a circles composition. And we have, if I kind of dissect this, we have a bunch of circle layers. These started as a circle, just like I made here. But I've animated, let's see, a little keyboard shortcut. If you select your layers and then press U, the keyboard shortcut, press U, it will bring up all of the keyframes that have been animated for those layers. So I press U and it shows me the keyframes. So I've animated this size, so it doesn't show you exactly how to get there, but let's take a look at that. So under this top shape layer, I added another animator, in this case zigzag. You can see it here, and the size of the zigzag, as I change it, you can see how it's changing like that. That can be animated. So basically, I just went back and forth animating here. And actually, let me turn off all these layers so we can just focus on this one. So you can see the size going from 12 to 28, back to 12, back to 28, back to 12. It's just going back and forth. And that's what's making that effect. There's this kind of like pulsating points, kind of like a sun. That's what I was imagining. It's kind of like a sun rays or something. And then once you animate something like that, you can just duplicate those layers, change the size and rotation so that, if I go and turn these back on, now these are all just adjusted. So you start with the larger ones on the outside, it's a little bit thicker, larger circumference, and you just put them together, and now they all start wobbling, shaking, oscillating at the same time. So that's all I've done in making that effect, just with a bunch of circles and a zigzag animator applied. And then that's what goes around the text here. All right, last up, let's look at some of these lines. Again, it's going to be some of the basic stuff, but there is one big thing is going to be new that we have not talked about yet. So these are all under the lines composition. And you can see I have a lot here. All right, I'm going to raise this up so we can see them all. So these are all the lines, all their individual shape layers. If I play this, they're all going up and down. Now, just like before, when I showed you the keyboard shortcut, you could press U to bring up all of the keyframes that have been animated. Well, if I select this layer, I press U, nothing happens. Because there are no animated keyframes for this. Now, you should be questioning, if there are no keyframes, how is their motion happening? For this effect, we used, sorry, let me back up. For this effect, I used expressions. Expressions can be a little daunting. It's basically math. It's formulas in code in a way that you put in on a layer that can make something happen. There's all kinds of expressions. They can be a little complicated, a little finicky, and I recommend, if you're interested in it, there's going to be plenty of tutorials on YouTube specifically about going over everything you need for expressions. In this case, I have a simple wiggle expression. So if I toggle down this top shape layer here, you'll see I have a X and Y position, and the Y position is in red. If I toggle down that Y position, all of a sudden we see some new menu options, and we see in writing, wiggle parentheses 5,300 close parentheses. That is the formula. That is the expression there that's affecting the Y position. The Y position is up and down. Think of the Y axis like a graph. So that's what's making these go up and down. And it's doing it randomly. I'm not controlling how much, or I'm not controlling like where they are at any given time. It's happening completely randomly. And so that's what's been applied to all of these layers here. Now let's go ahead and go over that briefly from the start. And I'll just go ahead and add a wiggle expression to this circle. So we see we still have that kind of hand-drawn look on there. But let's say we also, instead of just kind of being a little jumpy around the edges, we want it to go larger and smaller. So that's a scale transition that is then wiggling, kind of bouncing around. That wiggle that I had making those lines go up and down, that can be applied to anything that you see that stopwatch. So in that case, it was just the Y position. In this case, let's do adding a wiggle to the scale. All right, so we have shape layer 1, I'm toggling down transform, and we see scale here. So we see the stopwatch. Instead of clicking on the stopwatch, we're going to hold down Option and click on the stopwatch. Now that's on Mac. On Windows, I believe it's holding down Alt and clicking on the stopwatch, but on Mac it's holding down Option and clicking once on the stopwatch. That opens the area where you can type in the expression. Now in the past you would have to do all the typing manually, but After Effects has made it a little bit easier now. So if I start typing wiggle, it gives me some options, and I can go ahead and press enter because I see it here highlighted. So wiggle, press enter, and then the first number in the case of just the lines, I had 5,300. So let me just type that in again, 5,300, and let's see what happens. So it is jumping all over the place now. I mean, it's kind of cool in a way. It might be a little too frantic for the look you're going for. But this is where the 300 is affecting the amount of the scale, and the 5 is the frequency. So let's take down the 300 just to 30. So now it's a lot more contained. It's not just like expanding all over the place. If you want it to be slower, let's take down the 5 to, say, 2, and the 30, let's have it really subtle. Let's do 2 and 10. So it's just like a little slow amoeba blob now. So that's expressions. I know for the sake of keeping this video shorter, I'm covering this very, very quickly. Like I said, there's plenty of YouTube tutorials that will do a deep dive into expressions. If you're interested in learning more, there's a million one of those out there that would be good for you to watch. All right, so that's the basics of what I wanted to cover today. On these lines, I also had another random color preset applied, so you can see the colors are changing, reds and greens and purples and yellows. And then to get this effect where they're kind of rising up and then disappearing, that is simply, you can see I have the lines full composition here. That is simply editing when and where they start and stop. So you can see they're coming in here, the timeline is over this one, it's going up. And then as it hits the end of this one, now the bottom ones are going to start disappearing. So it looks like what I'm thinking of as like a stylized flame is all these layers are going up off of the composition edge. And there's other presets and things to get that, kind of hand-drawn wobbly look on the lines. All right. So that's everything. Let me just turn on the audio again. Take a look one more time.
Sweat Treats hot sauce blends rare chilies and refined spices into subtle heat and layered complexity. Sweat Treats hot sauce.
So depending on how advanced you are in After Effects, seeing those 6 seconds animation might seem a little daunting, but it really is getting an understanding of how After Effects works. So you're organizing all these layers, all these effects to build up this story, this timeline that's happening, that's corresponding with the music and the voiceover. All right, that's all we'll cover for today. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to go over any of these techniques. If there's anything that's still stumping you that you need help with, just shoot me an email or write a comment or something. And we'll see you all later.